Sounds like somebody's eating something.
Apologies.
Unmute. That's it.
Evening. Hello everyone. Can we kindly ask all public speakers just to mute their microphones until they're invited to speak, please? Thank you.
Hannah, may I ask a question, please?
Mm-hmm.
I'm receiving a text from my chief exec to say that the live link to the public isn't running. Is it just not turned on yet and they will be able to access it shortly, or is it down?
I have started it, so it should be working. Let me just check. It does say that it's working on my computer, so
That's okay. I'll invite him to try again then. It
Thank
sounds like the fault's at his end, not yours.
Thank you very much.
Hannah, I can confirm it's now working, just for the avoidance of doubt.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, members and members of the public and our council officers, and welcome to this evening's development management meeting. Let me just push that. Help the lighting a little bit. We're going to start this evening's development management committee meeting. As has been advised, if you're not speaking, if you could mute your microphone, it will make life easier for people to follow what's going on. But we will jump straight into the agenda. So agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence and substitutions. Hannah, did you want to go through those?
I haven't got any, Chair.
All right, well, there is at least one that I'm aware of. So Councillor Jodie Dunn is replacing Councillor Maggie Holcoop. Councillor Souter?
Councillor Mike Hardware.
And I assume he's being replaced by Councillor Carter, is that, or is he just absent?
No, there's no replacement for him.
Right, thank you very much. Moving on, next item on the agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Any declaration, Councillor Garner?
Yeah. Agenda item 10. I've got a prejudicial interest. I've been involved in negotiation.
Okay, so you're removing yourself from the item of the debate, yeah?
Yes.
Councillor Souter?
Thank you, Chair. Item number 8 and item number 9, as I'm the county councillor for that area.
Councillor Livings?
Non-pecuniary interest in items 7 and 10.
Thank you.
As the ward councillor.
Non-peculiar interest in item 11 because I'm a ward councillor for that area.
Thank you very much.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, item 7.
Yeah.
Both district and Essex County councillor. Item 11, Markle Moors, County Councillor,
Thank you.
non-prejudicial.
Oh, good.
Moving on then, the minutes which appear on pages 3 to 6 of your agenda papers, are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Any matters arising?
No.
I'll take that as a no. We have no written questions tonight. So moving on to agenda item 6, which is the procedure that will follow for tonight's applications. We'll start with the planning officer presenting the report. Comments will then be invited from members of the public who have registered with governance support prior to this evening's meeting. A maximum of 3 for an application and a maximum of 3 against an application, and each of those individuals will be limited to 3 minutes. Comments are then invited from the applicant stroke agent. Again, that person has 3 minutes. Because of the situation we're in, it is either possible for those to be done in person via the live call, or to submit a statement of 450 words, which we've equated to be 3 minutes. After that, councillors will seek questions and clarifications, which officers will respond to. Councillors then debate and move to a vote on each application. So if we could move to agenda item 7, which is Sector 5, Phase 2B, Newhall Project Red Wing Way. I believe, Patricia, you're presenting this one.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alex. The application is, as the first slide says, for 49 residential units with all the matters which were reserved from the outline scheme, which was approved in 2012. This is a aerial view of the neighbourhood as it is just about currently, with it stretching away into the distance. The application site, this is actually the original Newhall Masterplan, and I will say that the Masterplan has changed slightly. However, as you can see, the application site is located to the eastern side of the Newhall Neighbourhood, and actually forms or is part of the Phase 2 development, with the Phase 1 development having been built out to the southwestern part of the site. As you can see from this aerial photo, the application site itself has not been developed at all. There are roads running to the western side, which is Bunting Street, and also to the north of the application site, which is Roundhouse Way. There is also development both north and south, which form part of the Phase 2 developments within the Newhall neighbourhood. And to the eastern side of the site is the Hubbard's Hall Farm, which is for future development. To the west of the site, you can just about see that the Roundhouse, which is a Grade 2 listed building, is located adjacent to the site beyond Bunting Street itself. It's just a very plain version of the edge of the application site. And if we move on, this shows the proposed layout and the relationship with the roads north-south and north, east and west, and then the central road going through the middle of the site. In terms of concept, there are a number of things that have been considered in bringing forward the application, including vehicle movement. As I've indicated, there is movement around the north, west and east sides of the site, and the proposal would include a north-south route centrally within the application site, which is shown on number 1. In terms of landscaping and greener streets, it is proposed to provide treed areas to the northwest of the site and also along Roundhouse Way and Magpie Way. In terms of the overall relationship with frontage, buildings would be built onto the frontages of Bunting Street, Magpie Way and Roundhouse Way to the north. And in terms of placemaking, the corner properties shown in the dark blue have been set in slightly from the edges so that they can provide a certain amount of landscaping on those two corners. As you can see, the southern part of the site actually blends into an existing development. On this one, you can see the central road that has been proposed with properties facing onto it. And in the second part of that, there is a sort of courtyard area which has been provided on either side to fill in the gaps. This clearly shows the relationship with existing areas outside the site. To the east, the Hubbard's Hall land, farmland, and the pond within that, and to the west of the site, to the north is the roundhouse, and to the south, that is part of the school site. All of the properties within the application site would be two-storey, and that's clearly shown here, although there are quite a few different housing styles, and we'll go on to that in a moment. This shows the scale of each of the buildings. Most of these are 2, 3 and 4 bedroom houses, with those with the blue being the largest of the houses proposed. We're looking at visualizations here, showing the different elevational views of properties. You can go on another slide, Alex. And another example. This is the corner, one of the corner properties, and these are properties that would line I think the central area, if I'm not mistaken. Here you have the properties shown within the site on the left of the picture. These come down into Bunting Street and they link into the existing properties that are already there. This is not a very clear slide, but this shows the elevations from outside the site, from Roundhouse Way on the corner, and then again Magpie Way and Bunting Street. This is a little bit more detail on the corner properties, which show that they've been given stylistically a slightly different arrangement with iconic roof styling, just to emphasize the corners of the site. And this is the row of housing. I've pulled this one out partly because this would be directly adjacent to the Bunting Street, which is opposite where the roundhouse is located. I've just shown a typical floor layout here. This is one for 4 bedrooms. They do range across from 2, 3 and 4 bedrooms, but this isn't a typical example of a floor layout for the site. The materials palette, as usual, has been taken from the master plan and the colour palette that has been discussed with the original owners. This has actually been submitted on behalf of the Newhall Projects Limited, and therefore shows the colour palette that we have seen and expect on the Newhall site. This slide shows that amenity space to the northwestern corner will be provided as a public space. There are also setbacks for all of the properties onto the roads to the outside of the site. And then within the site, there are gardens, which are shown as dark green, and courtyard areas, and some soft landscaping within some of the parking areas in the central part of the site. There is affordable housing being provided on the basis of 16%. That is within the requirements of the legal agreement. Those are provided as eight two-bedroom properties, each having sufficient space for 4 people. They're shown in pink on this slide. This is the parking plan. It's just to show that each property has its own parking space. The green ones are private to each house, and the brown ones, including the number, I think there's about six of those to the southeastern corner, are for visitors. Not the easiest thing to see, but this is actually the application site is located right over to the left of this site. Thank you, Alex. The roundhouse is beyond that, and then if you're on the right hand side, this is the Rose Crescent that has already been developed out with a large area of grass in the central area. This is looking, if you look at the picture on the right hand side, this time is the roundhouse, and we are looking down across the cars that you can see are parked in Bunting Street, and the properties beyond are those ones that have already been developed out. The flat area in the middle, or roughly flat area, is the Sector 5 application site. Again, this one shows this is a Google image showing the roundhouse, and this is taken from Roundhouse Way, showing that the site is clear, ready for development. This is taken from the eastern side of the roundhouse to show the school land to the right hand side, which is going to be retained for going to be retained as a neighbourhood play area and playing fields for the school. And if you follow the road along, the application site is beyond the roundhouse on the right hand side. You can just about see some of the houses. Thank you, Alex. If you look at the roundhouse from here, you can see some of the houses that are in the background. Those are the ones that have already been constructed, falling away slightly to the right. And this is just to show that area, the other side of the roundhouse, is the school site which was approved by the county council, and it includes a large playing field and the neighbourhood active play area. That's shown up in a little bit more detail where the neighbourhood play area is. It's called a NEEP, and it's shown in orange. If you follow the V, about 2/3 of the way down, and the orange dot to the left hand side is the neighbourhood play area. Thank you, Alex.
Okay, so we have 3 speakers against this application, and then we have the agent that wants to make a presentation as well. So if we can start with Janine Dunn, please. Janine, if you could unmute yourself, and then you'll have 3 minutes once you start talking. Yeah, we can't hear you.
Sorry, headset's still on. Thank
Okay.
you. Hi. So in terms of the various things that have been proposed, so going through the scale, so I think that it's a bit extensive in the sense of the roads that will be the made the accessible roads. So you've got Bunting Street, Magpie Road and Roundhouse Way. So we already have contention with the primary school, and they're only opened with the first part of their classes, and we have 400 odd vehicles passing through that access point coming up Roundhouse Way. And already issues of road rage, safety, all those kind of things going on. And then we're going to be talking about potentially another, I guess realistically, about another 200 odd vehicles coming up through there. If you go to the back side of that, of Goldcrest Way, which accesses into Bunting Street and Magpie Road, all of the frontages of those houses on both sides of the road open up onto the main road. Again, you know, if that was the access point coming in, there'll be 200 odd vehicles coming through there. The roads in terms of sizes are varying between 3.73 metres, 4.8, and in some points maybe going up to 5. So it may not be conducive to putting pathways down both sides and being a two-way road. Then other challenges around this are the raised tables. So we have those raised tables along High Chase, and we have one coming up Roundhouse Way already. It doesn't prevent any kind of speeding. It's been quite a big community issue overall. So again, it's being proposed as that will just calm it down, but I don't believe, based on experience at the moment, that it would calm speeding down. So a lot of the shared spaces would be putting at risk trying to promote pedestrianised zones. And I guess from the other kind of aspects in the sense of public amenity and spaces, so that land that was shown as being by the school and Roundhouse Way, that's actually been built upon now. So that's actually a car park for the school. So there isn't that big, nice green land for fields for the neighbourhood. So then we're left with a space, which is Rose Crescent, that is not accessible for mobility or anything. It will then be having lots of vehicles passing by that. It's not a safe, secure zone for children and families to go and play on. So again, it wouldn't really be promoting that shared space of, you know, walking, cycling, being out in a community together. And then I guess in terms of public consultation, that was actually conducted by some random leaflets being put through with not much timescale of warning to residents, hence only 40 residents turned up and were consulted out of a potential 1,100 plus. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was really...
I'll ask you to wrap up. You've had
Yeah, sure, okay. And then I guess the other elements is the active frontages. So I think a reflection that hasn't really worked across Newhall. So maybe a proposal would be to, for kind of the value interest for residents, is put that into being the boundary of the property owners, so that the value aspect of those looks good, because we've been done by things like box blight and everything for many years, and it looks quite shabby across the estate.
Sorry,
Yeah, that's it. I'm finished. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I have Rob Campbell next? Again, Rob, you'll have 3 minutes. If you could unmute your microphone and turn your camera on.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me now. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. I'll just read what I wrote on the original objection. Again, my issues were mainly around the roads that lead on Bunting Street rather than the actual building of the houses. So after reading the transport report, we object to the statement that the existing Bunting Street road has a 4.8 metre wide carriageway and a 2 metre pathway. Although the part of Bunting Street where the new houses will be built will have a path, the part of Bunting Street that is being lived in now has no pathway at all. Our front steps lead straight into the road. If this was to become a through road, there's no safe way for my pregnant wife, she has had the baby now, and our child to enter the property and get to a pathway without entering the road. Early in the mornings at peak times mentioned in the report, there are a large number of children and parents walking to the new nursery and schools along this stretch of road. If nothing is changed to introduce some kind of pathway, these children and parents will literally be walking to the school in the road. The number of people using this route will only increase the number of classrooms being introduced at school grows over the coming years. We would prefer this road to remain as a no-through road as it is at the moment, for the safety of ours and our neighbours' families. Sorry, one second. I've lost my position. Sorry, I'll start that part again. We'd prefer that road to remain as a no-through road for the safety of both our neighbours' families and our families. This would be a long straight road with one minimal speed hump to slow down passing cars. If this cannot be the case, then there must be better, more effective speed calming measures put in place. Speed humps simply do not work with certain types of drivers in this area. My personal suggestion would be to make this either an exit or an entrance road, and Red Ring Road the opposite, to enable pathways to be installed on the roads reduced to single track. That's all I needed to say, really.
Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we've got Sheila Sullivan. Sheila, if you could unmute yourself.
Hello.
You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm concerned with this plan about housing density. The houses are being shoehorned into a small area without the corresponding provision of green space. In this plan, all the green space is for, all the open space, sorry, is for car parking. The trees identified in the plan, there are 24 of them, and they're all small. They're 2.5 meters of ultimate height. Now, since Newhall has been expanded, only 2 very small grass areas have been added. We saw one of them earlier. This contrasts strongly with the park, playground and village green within phase 1. The neighbourhood play area referred to earlier has been tarmacked over and is a car park. One of the grass spaces added on the Linden development has been a mess and an eyesore for years, and it hasn't added to the amenity of the area for the residents there. This planned development will create an unrelieved high density built upon strip along the whole of the eastern length of the Newhall development as it is now, consisting of the Fusion and the Edge developments. I think this council should require and enforce higher standards for the green environment of neighbourhoods from the developers.
Thank you, Sheila. We have Catherine Williams, who is the agent. Catherine, are you there?
Thank you. Good evening, members. I'm Catherine Williams, the agent on behalf of Newhall Projects Limited, speaking in favour of the Sector 5 application. I would like to thank officers for their report and positive recommendation, which we fully support. Newhall Projects are the master developer at Newhall and have been involved in the site since its inception. They're responsible for ensuring the delivery of infrastructure at Newhall and retain design approval for phases 1 and 2. This application is seeking reserved matters consent for the latest parcel on Newhall. The wider site has permission for 2,300 homes, as well as commercial and community facilities. This parcel will be developed to provide 49 residential units, including 16% affordable housing, in line with the requirements of the Section 106. The proposals will provide a range of house types, including 2, 3 and 4 bedroom homes, at a density similar to other parcels consented and built immediately surrounding the application site. The parcel is located on the remaining undeveloped land surrounded by Bunting Street, Magpie Road and Roundhouse Way, and will complete the development in this part of the site in accordance with the approved master plan and will contribute to meeting the housing need in the district. At the end of Roundhouse Way, outside of the Newhall site, is the Roundhouse, a Grade 2 listed building. Place Services were consulted on the application and have concluded that the proposals will result in less than substantial harm to the setting of the listed building, and that this harm is at the lower end of this scale. Whilst officers are correct that the applicant was invited to revise the proposals to remove any harm, it is considered by the design team that the level of harm is so low and that any reduction in units would adversely affect the delivery of this parcel, and the substantial benefits of the scheme outweighed the level of harm identified. The NPPF takes a proportionate approach in respect of harm to listed buildings, and as such, this level of harm needs to be assessed against the benefits of the proposal, which are set out in your officer's report and include the delivery of housing and affordable housing. As set out by your officer, these benefits outweigh the harm to the listed building, and as such, the scheme is acceptable in heritage impact terms. There have been 5 public comments made in relation to the application. The majority of these set out concerns around traffic impact, pedestrian accessibility, and the principle of having residential development on this parcel. The principle of residential development has already been established through the Outline Planning Permission. The approved site-wide master plan for phase 2 shows residential development in this location, and the application accords with this. In respect of traffic speeds and highway safety, the layout has been developed to incorporate traffic calming measures, particularly along Red Wing Way, which will reduce the likelihood of vehicles travelling at high speed. Moreover, the proposals along Bunting Street are to improve highway safety along this stretch and incorporate a pavement. Importantly, ECC as the Highways Authority have raised no objection to the proposals. The proposals will deliver a high quality design reflective of the approved and built out parcels across Newhall.
Catherine, could you wind up, please?
Yep. There are no statutory objections to the proposals, and your officers have concluded that the proposals are acceptable in planning terms, and therefore respectfully request that the application be approved in accordance with your officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, questions, please. Anybody? Councillor Garnett, I assume you're trying to...
Rio, I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are unmuted.
Some say I should be muted.
I never said that.
I understand now that the houses are some 35 metres away from the roundhouse. Can that Pat confirm that? I think a lot of it is I probably use it in my winding up speech, I suppose is the way, working hours and speeding. So I think
no questions, no.
No questions as such. No. Well, it's reserved matters, isn't it?
It is, yes. Councillor Davis, did you want to talk? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just got a couple of questions. The play area was mentioned about it being now tarmac. Is that correct, or should that have been done? And I'm a bit worried about a comment made to someone saying that from the exit from their house is straight onto the road, and there should have been a footpath. But I understand this is under approved master plan, but I'd like to know about the play area and the access from the houses onto the road. Thank you.
Patricia? Patricia? You're muted. Yes. That's
Apologies, Chair. I've been flicking back and forwards because I haven't got everyone on one screen. In terms of the proposed development, Bunting Street would be provided with a footpath. The development that has already been constructed to the south of that doesn't have one. However, it's not something that this application can actually respond to, because it isn't something that they can actually do outside the red line of this application site. There would be a footpath provided to Bunting Street, which there isn't at the moment. So that would be a benefit to those people who do live to the south, because they will be able to use that footpath. In terms of the been indicated that an area has been tarmacked, I don't have knowledge of that personally. The site, if Alex could show the school site, if you could share that slide. You can see from the I think it's the, if you can see on the larger of the two drawings, there is some parking associated with the school, which is not unreasonable. There's a parking and I understand a drop-off area that was approved adjacent to the roundhouse, but the NEEP itself is to the south in that location that is being identified now. I don't know at what stage that's got to in terms of that being constructed. The playing fields for the school are also there. If you have a look, there's that part of the site, and also in the middle part of the site there seems to be marked out area. it was expected that there would be some parking within the site, and that will be between the school building and the roundhouse itself. So that was likely to be tarmacked. That was approved by County Council, and they will be responsible for the details of any conditions discharges on that site.
Okay, so just for clarity, if anybody isn't sure about that, any questions to that should be directed to the County Council, because the school it isn't dealt with by Harlow Council, it's dealt with by Essex. So if there are queries to that, and it sounds like that there are county councillors in the town who might be able to assist you with that. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Clark.
Yes, I wanted also clarification about the green environment and the green spaces. I still don't quite understand. If you're saying we have to ask Essex County Council, we're agreeing something now, aren't we? And we had a picture of extensive green spaces, and now we're being told that they're not extensive green spaces, that in fact it's, well, there's also the unsafe.
I think what we're being told is the green spaces, there or not, are not part of this application. They're not on the application parcel that we're looking at tonight. If the county council or the developer of the school has tarmacked over something, that is for, I'm sure we can get our officers to talk to county about that, but it's not part of tonight's application. And we're not responsible, as you're aware, for school sites.
Oh, no. Okay.
Any other questions? No. Okay, debate. Councillor Garnett.
That's it. I've got myself unmuted. Yeah, two things. If we can deal with the clause for the working hours. I've not got nothing on screen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I'd like to propose that the work. Oh no, it's covered by the original.
Covered in the outline already, Councillor Garnett.
Indeed. A little bit disappointed that the roundhouse has not been given more protection. I know it's on a very low scale to be protected, but it is a Grade 2 listed building after all. But I suppose 35 metres is not too bad until you get lorries and cars passing. But I think we don't seem to learn our lessons that we've had over the years in Newhall is rat running and speeding cars. You know, we've got a 20-mile-an-hour limit, but people, or some people being what they are, they take no notice of it. I agree with the gentleman, I can't remember his name, who talked about blocking off the main road that goes down the middle. I can't see why you would put a central road running straight from north to south, which is an ideal rat run situation. And I would ask the developers to consider somewhere along there blocking it off so people can only go halfway. It's the only way you're going to stop the traffic from taking shortcuts from A to B. I can't, looking at my plans anyway, I can't see how far they can get to the other areas, but I know we've had substantial problems in Newhall about speeding, and because the houses are so close to the road, there is a pavement on both sides. I see, if I can be, if I'm not being wrong. But apart from that, it's reserved matters, unfortunately, and I think we've not learned our lessons from the very beginning about we come in with applications which we don't have a proper look at first to see whether the number of houses is going to fit in there comfortably, because we don't get a detailed plan till now. Anyway, that's probably as much as I can say at this stage. Thank you.
Danvers.
Thank you. I think it's just a great shame that that Newhall has actually lost its way after such a promising start. Now it's just amorphous development, lack of open space, as now the residents have actually referred to. this alarming development of very busy traffic. But at the end of the day, our hands are tied. The government legislation is very clear. Development control committees hardly have any powers now over applications such as this. But one would actually hope that the developer would take note that there is a concern now in the area that there's a lack of general open space amenity land. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Danvers. Anybody else like to debate? Councillor Clark?
Similarly, I'd like to regret the fact that we probably have to agree to it, but nevertheless ask for two things, particularly to reconsider the green area and whether we do it via the county council or not, and increase the space in some way. I was sort of disappointed that they didn't move back further, but also to consider this whole question of traffic, which Mike has raised, and ask them to investigate ways of making it safer, and also providing a footpath. Now, apparently a footpath will or may be placed there. Can we insist on a footpath being there?
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we're done with the debate. So if we move to the vote.
Sorry, are the public allowed to speak again, or was that we had our thing?
No, you're not. So
even though the question wasn't really answered clearly previously about the pathway on Bunting Street.
So you're not.
Chair.
Allowed to speak.
Okay, just a question was asked and it wasn't answered. That was all.
Yeah, we're moving to the vote.
Chair, can I make one?
No, we're going to move to the vote.
There have been questions if they're not answered.
Thank you, sir, for your comments, but we're moving to the vote. All those in favour of recommendations 1 to 5 and the informative, which appear on pages 18 to 20 of your agenda paper, if you could indicate by raising your hand virtually. Okay, I have 6 votes for. If all of you could lower your virtual hand. Anybody voting against? And we have 1 against. Okay, so that is carried. Anybody that came specifically for that agenda item, you're welcome to stay till the end of the meeting. But failing that, if you wanted to log out, you're more than welcome to. Moving on to agenda item 8, which is development on the car park at the rear of Market House and Mobility House and Stone Cross. Jade, would you like to make a presentation, please?
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to the demolition of the existing garages and A1 units and the erection of an 8-storey residential block of 33 flats with a replacement A1 unit at ground floor and the creation of a communal roof garden at first floor connecting to Market House on land on the car park to the rear of Market House. The application site comprises the car park to the rear of Market House, which is located at the northern end of the town centre. It comprises brownfield land, including hard standing, a redundant garage block, and an attached A1 unit, which is currently vacant, but was most recently occupied by Mobility House. This unit is owned by Harlow Council, but was deemed to be surplus to requirements at the Council's Cabinet meeting in February. The site is currently accessed via 2 entry points off the Post Office Road, which lies to the immediate north. There is a separate pedestrian access to the east of the site, which acts as a walkway to Market Square. Next slide, please. This shows the existing ground floor plan, which shows the car park to the rear of Market House more clearly. This also shows the walkway from Post Office Road to Market Square. And the plan also shows the 3 disabled spaces that are located on the highway on Post Office Road. Next slide, please. This slide shows the proposed ground floor plan. You will note that 2 of the 3 disabled spaces on the highway have been relocated to within the application site in order to allow for refuse collection. Please, however, note that a condition has been recommended to require the submission of a parking layout plan to ensure that the spaces provided are appropriate, and a Section 106 legal agreement shall ensure that these spaces are publicly accessible at all times. The existing walkway to Market Square will be retained. The 5 ground floor units would include rear gardens, and balconies or terraces would be provided to the remaining units. The proposal also includes the communal garden area at first floor, which I'll show on the next slide. The description of the proposal includes the replacement of an A1 unit. However, during the application process, the scheme has evolved to include a commercial unit at ground floor for A1, A2 or B1 uses. It is considered that a mixed use would help to ensure the long-term use of the units in the interest of maintaining the vitality and viability of the town centre. The proposal doesn't include any standard car parking spaces within the application site, but would provide 14 standard parking spaces within the car park at Terminus House. The applicant has 50 car parking spaces at Terminus House, held on a lease for 50 years from the 24th of February 2017. The 2 disabled spaces, oh sorry, I said that already. Access would continue to be taken from Post Office Road to the north. Sorry, next slide please, Alex. This slide shows the proposed first floor plan, which includes the communal first floor garden area, which connects the proposed development to Market House. Next slide, please. This shows the upper floor plans up to the 6th floor. There'd be overall 1 studio flat, 24 1-bedroom flats, 6 2-bedroom flats, and 2 3-bedroom flats. Next slide, please. On the top floor would be the location of the 3-bedroom flats and the studio flats. Next slide, please. So now we come on to the existing and proposed elevation. So this is the existing front elevation. So if you were looking at it from Post Office Road, you currently see Market House. Next slide, please. Then this would be the proposed view from Post Office Road. Next slide, please. This is the existing rear elevation, which just includes the back of the garage and mobility house. And then this would be the back of the proposed development. This is the existing west elevation. This proposed west elevation, very fairly self-explanatory, these ones. This is the proposed east elevation, so this is the walkway to Market Square at the moment. And this is the proposed east elevation, so you'll see the green wall, which is included as part of the proposal. Next slide, please. Okay, so this would be the view if you were stood in Market Square looking at Market House. That would be Market House in front of you, and then behind Market House you'd see the proposed development. In 2016, I believe, we did approve for an additional storey on Market House, which I believe the applicant is still seeking to pursue, which would screen the proposed development further. Here are the proposed CGIs. So this is the view from Post Office Road. Actually, Alex, if you could go back to the slide before, please. Just to make members aware. So where I'm looking at is, if you can see the blue car on the right-hand corner, and there's a single-storey building next to that. That is the back of the existing commercial units, which includes a kebab shop, Chinese, and a grocer's, I believe. Since the publication of the committee agenda and the update sheet, a concern has been raised from the owner of the commercial units. The concern related to the impact of the fumes from the units on the first floor communal garden, balconies and terraces. The applicant has confirmed that a granting condition could be added to require the applicant to mitigate the impact of the fumes. The condition would be worded as follows. No development shall commence until a ventilation and extraction strategy relating to the adjacent commercial units have been submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. The strategy shall detail all necessary measures required to mitigate any potential impacts from extraction and ventilation systems within close proximity of the site, to ensure adequate protection for the residential amenity of future occupants from odour. No occupation of the residential development hereby permitted shall occur until such time as all the measures set out within the approved ventilation and extraction strategy have been implemented in full. The reason being to ensure that fumes associated with the commercial unit do not result in detrimental impacts to the amenity of the occupiers of the development, and to maintain the commercial units in the interest of the vitality and viability of the town centre, and to accord a policy B to an RTCS3 of the adopted replacement Harlow local plan. The details are required to be approved before works commence to ensure the impacts of the development are acceptable. Thank you, Alex. These are further CGIs. This would be the aerial view from the east, showing the communal garden, and again from the east showing the green wall. And this would be the view from Market House. So if you were inside Market House looking out, this is the view you would have of the communal garden and the proposed development. These are photographs of the site. So this is Mobility House, the garage block attached. This again is showing the current car park to the rear of Market House, Mobility House, looking to the north. Again, the car park. And then this is looking in the opposite direction towards Market House. And this is the walkway along the east of the site to Market Square. Okay, so in conclusion, the proposal would result in new accommodation and a new retail unit. This would include the redevelopment of previously developed land within the town centre and would make efficient use of brownfield land. It is considered that the proposal would act as a landmark building on Post Office Road and would enhance the walkway to Market Square. It is also considered that the proposal would help to improve the image and perception of the town centre and would act as a catalyst for regeneration in the northern part of the town centre. In addition, the proposal includes 30% affordable housing, which is policy compliant, and a contribution of £34,000 towards open space, and a contribution of £10,000 towards the library within the town centre. The proposed development is not considered to result in detrimental impacts to neighbouring amenity, car parking, ecology, refuse, or flooding subject to conditions. The proposal is therefore considered to be compliant with the NPPF and relevant policies within the local plan and the emerging local plan. It is therefore recommended that planning permission is granted subject to conditions, and the applicant entering into a legal agreement to secure the 30% affordable housing, contributions towards open space and the library, the car parking spaces within Terminus House car park, and to ensure that the disabled car parking spaces are publicly accessible in the long term.
Thank you, Jade.
Thank you.
We have no public speakers on this item, but Councillor Tony Edwards would like to speak. Tony, did you want to unmute yourself? And you'll have 3 minutes.
I won't need 3 minutes. Just briefly, just to speak in favour of this this development. I was particularly encouraged to see that 30% affordable housing. We certainly need affordable housing within the town centre. I share the views that this could be a catalyst to try and get some development going at that northern end. I only have sort of one concern really as far as the building is concerned, and that relates to the commercial properties that on the west side of the building, which I see are continuing to remain. And my concern actually relates to the state of those particular properties. So I don't know whether or not this developer or whoever it is, the owner of those commercial properties, could also be encouraged to do something about those particular properties and bring them up to standard, because my concern would be that the new building could be blighted by the state of those existing properties. That apart, I would hope that the the Development Management Committee give approval to the development of this site. Thank you.
Edwards, much appreciated. Hannah, I believe you've got a statement to give from the agent here in Woodward Court.
Yes, so it's on behalf of the applicant. Dear councillors, this ecologically sustainable development with solar panels at roof level and rain harvesting for watering communal gardens will provide much needed high quality housing for Harlow Town Centre. Point 1, a positive recommendation. The applicant would like to express their thanks for the assistance provided by your planning team during the pre-application and post-submission stages. The applicant welcomes the positive recommendation and fully endorses your planning officer's carefully considered report. Point 2, housing supply. The provision of 33 residential flats incorporating 30% affordable units is an important addition to the council's housing supply in an inherently sustainable location. Point 3, pre-commencement conditions. This is an important site and we fully accept the 7 pre-commencement conditions relating to materials and the future management of the development. These conditions will give important oversight and control to the council and ensure that this development is delivered to the highest point. Point 4, no statutory objections. The lack of objections from the public and statutory consultees is notable. Whilst planning is not a popularity contest, it is worth noting that 115 people and businesses were contacted about this development. From this extensive consultation, only a single objection was made. This came from the Royal Mail about concerns whether their nearby sorting office would cause adverse noise impact to proposed flats. This has been studied and a pre-commencement condition ensures adequate glazing to minimise any noise issues. Point 5, the planning balance. Planning decisions must be made in accordance with the development plan unless material considerations dictate otherwise. In this case, your planning officer has reached the conclusion that the proposed development does comply with the plan. It is important to remember that to comply with the plan, you need to consider the plan as a whole. It is an important High Court case, Justice Sullivan noted. I regard it as untenable to say that if there is a breach of any one policy in a development plan, a proposed development cannot be said to be in accordance with the plan. It would be difficult to find any project of any significance that was wholly in accord with every relevant policy in the development plan. It is enough that the proposed accords with the development plan when considered as a whole. It does not have to accord with each and every policy therein. On balance, it is our firm belief and that of your planning officer that this proposed development accords with the development plan as a whole, providing clear economic, social and environmental benefits. This belief is further endorsed by the scarcity of objections. We respectfully urge councillors to follow their officer's recommendation and improve this application this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillors' questions. I've got Councillor Garnett, you're indicating.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted if Jade would talk me through, we're losing the parking space, the disabled parking spaces to the front of the building. And are they now going to be relocated at the rear of the building? And where's the access point? Is it that where that blue car was?
Hello, yes. So they're relocating 2 of the 3 disabled spaces off the highway into the car park to the rear. And we're requiring a condition to be added to for a parking layout plan to be submitted so that they would definitely be of appropriate size. And we're also going to ensure that they are publicly accessible at all times in the legal agreement. And yes, there would be access off Post Office Road as they would be at the moment.
Okay, will there be any signs going up? Sorry, thanks through you, Chair.
Yeah.
To let people know that there are spaces available there.
We could include that as part of the disabled parking condition or in the legal agreement if required.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. There was discussion earlier on, or presentation earlier on, about extraction, about getting that sorted out. From my memory, the shops along the row there, you've got one Chinese takeaway. Obviously, you have lots of smells coming out of that. But who will be paying for this extraction process?
Jade?
So the condition that we have added on would require the applicant to submit the strategy to us. So the owner to be on the applicant to pay for any amendments to the extraction at the moment.
The onus is on the applicant to sort the problem. What we do by imposing a brand new condition is we pass that problem on to other people. So we're not saying the applicant has to pay, we're not saying the business has to pay. What we are saying is a suitable mitigation system must be in place before any development commences and must be implemented before anybody starts to live there.
Okay, Councillor Livings.
Thank you, Chair. I spoke earlier on about the post office noise, which I'm still quite concerned about, especially if Jade was saying that if they shut their windows, but okay, some of those flats are going to be very high up, and if the windows are closed, it might be very hot in there. That's one thing I need to say. The second thing I'd like to say is that they will only be the top floor flats that have had sunlight. The building in front will have stopped the sunlight getting to the rest of the building. I wonder if this has been thought of in the actual plans.
Jade.
Hello. Yes. So in relation to your point about the delivery office next door, so this was raised as a concern by the delivery office, and the applicant went away and looked into this, and they provided a noise impact assessment which concluded that with appropriate glazing and with appropriate ventilation as well, that the level of noise would be acceptable. Also, the proposed development would be separated from the main noise generating part of that site by about 65 metres, with the delivery of a sorting office, in between that. And sorry, what was your second question?
The second one was, Jade, about the sunlight. It will only be the top because of the building.
So we also raised this as an issue, and the applicant provided an internal daylight assessment, and they did it for Market House and for proposed development, and it was concluded that the levels of daylight would be acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Souter.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, because of these high-rise blocks, are there a sprinkler system in there, just in case there's a fire?
Jade.
We did consult the fire service, but they didn't respond. So we've added an informative about putting in sort of water suppression systems, which is the informative that they normally ask for.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, councillors? No. In that case, let's move to debate. Who wants to start the debate off? Councillor Danvers.
Well, Tony Edwards is the councillor for the town centre. I think we should actually respect his point of view. It certainly would be a much better building than is what's there at the moment. The post office sorting office obviously has possible plans for the future. I don't know. They've always been thinking about where they're going to relocate. And equally on Birdcage Walk, it's increasingly a rather depressing site. And to actually have a building, if the pictures are true to the outcome, a building which seems to be quite good quality, an imaginative design, then that's to be welcomed.
Thank you, Councillor Danvers. Councillor Garnett.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have to agree. The design of the building is actually unusually good. We haven't just got plain flank walls with a few metal balustrades out as balconies. Not really a concern because there's not much we can do about it. But Market House, if they put another couple of floors on, I see there's going to be a conflict between that and the new building. But the people who purchase in this building have to be hopefully aware of that. But yeah, we need to. For years we've been talking about redeveloping the town centre. This is a small part, or there's a few other bits which have been done. At the moment, it's going to look out of place because it'll be so nice and smart. So hopefully it's the beginning of more of these. Thank you.
I mean, you have got Mellin not too far away from it, which has just newly been redeveloped.
Yes.
And looks pretty nice as well, which isn't far away.
Yeah.
Okay, any other? Councillor Davis?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make the comment about at least it's one developer that's listened to our requirements about affordable housing. Social housing would have been better, but at least we've got the affordable housing here, which makes a change.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I fully agree with you. Okay, I think we're done with debate. Sorry, Councillor Clark, I can't see you. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I just wanted to support it wholeheartedly. It's on a brownfield site, especially the 30% affordable housing, which I agree should be termed social housing, but nevertheless, that's good. There's an element of green that's incorporated in this, which will add to the whole area, I think, favourably. And also, there was a sort of certain concern about the setting of the sculpture. Well, in fact, the residents can enjoy it. It's positive. The residents themselves can enjoy the sculpture. So all in all, I think it's a very good scheme to be welcomed. And it does push forward the northward element of the town rather than everything going down south, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Okay, I think we're going to move to the vote. So all those in favour of recommendations 1 to 10, which appear on pages 38 to 41 of the agenda, and informative number 1, and the supplementary recommendation as outlined by the officer earlier with regards to extraction issues, please indicate. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. Okay, I think that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on, agenda item 9. So again, anybody that came specifically for that doesn't want to stay for the rest is welcome to leave. Members of the public, that is. Councillors, I'm afraid you need to stay. Agenda item 9, Patricia. Kingsacre.
Yes, this is an application for a change of use of the existing building to C2, which is residential accommodation and care, from a existing bungalow, which is within use class C3. It would also involve the cladding of the existing bungalow. The application site is L-shaped. It is located to the southwest of Passmore House, which can just be seen to the top of this slide. And as you can see, the nearest other residential properties are to the southwest beyond the brook. The application site is within the Green Wedge on the south side of 3rd Avenue, and you can see that it is fairly close to the edge of that part of the Green Wedge, and that you can just about see the sort of pinky line round the Passmore's house, which is a listed building. This is the existing arrangement on site. Not 100% clear on here, but you can see the main building shown to be a T shape. That's the bungalow. To the southeast of that is an existing garage. And there are a couple of other buildings to the southwest. And again, there's one behind, I think it's a shed, which is behind the garage itself. The cloud-shaped item in the northeastern corner is actually a pond. Thank you, Alex. And to the west of the house, following up northwards towards the 3rd Avenue, is the main road or driveway and then just to the west of that is actually the brook. Proposal would be to extend the existing bungalow partly over the existing garage site, but also taking out the other existing sheds and outbuildings to provide a small parking area for 5 vehicles and a 18-bedroom ancillary drug and alcohol recovery unit, which the main building is at Passmore's house, and that provides 23 bedrooms. And also this would basically be a dormitory area for those who are partway through their recovery, and there would be all the activities and daytime. Most of the residents here would be up at the main house. This slide shows that it would be all bedrooms apart from a small lounge or seating area and a room marked as clinic, which might be for quiet time. The proposal, sorry, perhaps we should start with the existing building. The existing building has a shallow pitched roof, and the proposed extension and link across to it would all have a flat roof. While this wouldn't be in character with the existing shallow pitched building, it's considered that there are benefits given its location within the green wedge, that it would be so low profile that it wouldn't be visible from outside the site. There is significant tree cover around the site itself, and none of the trees around the site are proposed to be removed. This is looking at it from the other elevations. As you can see, the pitched roof and then the flat sections in between. Just a picture of the front of the property showing some of the trees and how well screened it is, even from fairly close to the building itself. And as you pull further away, you can see that there's significant landscaping. That's to the eastern side of the site. And again, if you're looking towards the north, towards Passmore's house, those trees shown are actually within the grounds of Passmore's house itself. But as you can see, there's significant tree screening around the site, which wouldn't be affected by the proposal at all.
Thank you. Okay, so there are no public speakers on this application, but there are a couple of councillors who've registered to speak and the developer. So we'll start with Councillor Carter.
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Thank you. Just a few words. What I'd like to say is originally I was involved with this some 12 years ago when this charity took over Passmore's house. There was a bit of local concern at the time about the impact that maybe the residents would have on the residents of Passmore's house would have on the local community. But this has been totally unfounded, and I have kept an eye on this. It's on the edge of my ward now, although I was the ward councillor in Toddbrook at the time, some 12 years ago. We have visited this, and I visited this about 6 months ago, I believe, with you were there, Chair, and there were other councillors, and we were given a look round at the really the building and the way that they have developed it as they promised that they would. They have 23 beds in this Passmore's house, and they mainly deal with people who are affected by substance abuse, drug abuse, etc. We did meet some of the residents, and to be honest, they were very articulate, and they were looking forward to getting back in society and getting on with their lives. I believe that walking around the site, exactly as the officer said, it is secluded. I don't believe too many people even know what goes on in Passmore's house. And I think that if we give planning permission for this, it will be exactly the same. And I thoroughly recommend this. It is a very, very well needed charity, and the work they do in the UK, and it's in Harlow, and I'm quite pleased that it's there, and we should welcome this addition. Thank you.
Councillor Carter. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, I just want to second what Councillor Carter's been saying. Just to put it in a bit of context, this morning I went and had a look at the Joint Strategic Needs Assessment for 2019 and key findings relating to Harlow. And members might be interested to know that Harlow has the highest number of alcohol-related hospital admissions in the county. It works out at approximately 2,360 per 100,000 of the population. Put that in. And we have the third highest alcohol related mortality rate in the county. Like Councillor Carter, I had the privilege of going down and visiting the site. The site is a very secluded site. I had the privilege of meeting with some of the residents at the site, or some of the people that were going through the rehabilitation process there, and they spoke very, what do you use the word, movingly, about the support that they got from the staff there at the site, and about the what actually going through the process meant for them. In the 3 years that I've been, approximately 3 years that I've been a councillor, I've not had any complaints from anybody in the Toddbrook ward about the nature of the services provided down there. And in fact, I spoke to some of the people who are friends of Passmore's house, and they too very much supported the activities that go on at that particular site. So I too would be firmly in favour, and I hope that you do vote for this being given planning permission today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. So we have Edward Moody, the applicant. Edward, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of WDP, which, as you've heard, has over 25 years of outstanding service in communities across London and the home counties. WDP are very grateful for this opportunity to speak, but we only secured it in case there were points being raised this evening that might not have been covered by the report. But all points, and we are grateful for the supporting ones in particular, have been addressed by the officer's report, which is considered and has been looked at in the context of your committee's policies, so that the conclusions reached are ones that we feel are fully justified and appropriate. WDP are grateful for the support of officers and council members in this matter. COVID-19 will have tested the vulnerability of individuals to the limits, and the foresight to recommend this at this time may prove very timely indeed. So I pass it back to you, Chair. There's nothing more I think I need to say at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Councillor Garnett, you're indicating, have you got a question?
Yeah, just a point of clarity. I'm sure I'm not seeing ghosties here. In the report, you talk about demolition of existing outbuildings, and then further down under place services heritage, this is on page 54, you talk about the Passmore House and the 18th century outbuildings also listed. I take it they're not the same outbuildings that are going to be demolished?
No.
Thank you. Thank you,
Chair. Any other questions? No. Debate then. Who wants to start the debate? Councillor Danvers.
Well, just to echo what's been said, Chair, Passmore's house has actually been able to establish its reputation, a very worthy reputation, for quite a few years now. If my memory serves me correctly, it's been going for over 20 years. It's out of the way. This particular site certainly cannot be seen even from the cycle track. And I certainly think it's a very commendable advancement of their work.
Thank you, Councillor Danvers. Having visited myself, I concur with your thoughts. Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, just to really back up with what Mike was saying, there aren't enough of these facilities around, particularly in Harlow. This isn't like a 9 to 5 thing. It needs to be residential, and I'm completely behind this development.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Anybody else? Councillor Garnett.
Chair.
I'll come to you in a second, Councillor Clark.
Right.
Won't be a moment, Jean. Yeah, I fully endorse this application. My only problem, which I said originally, was the flat roof. I think it's sort of out of character with the rest of the buildings on that site, be it they're well away from the main building. So I suppose that does help. But I have a personal dislike for block boxes, which look as though they're supposed to be useful. And as a rehabilitation centre, it would have been something. It was probably cost more money, but it would be nicer to have a nicer looking building than a square box with square rooms in it. Otherwise,
comments are noted, Councillor Garnett. Councillor Clark.
Yes, I fully support this, Chair. I think it's an excellent proposal. In itself, it is, as everybody has said, secluded. There are no trees being removed at all by the proposal. It has the support of local people and a community group, which is good in itself, but mostly because it is such a benefit to the local community, which I'm wholeheartedly in support of, and it is in particular need at the moment because of the present circumstances of COVID-19, likely to increase all pressures on people. So it's an excellent scheme.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Okay, in that case, members, I think we'll move to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendations which appear on pages 61 to 63 of the main report and page 4 of the supplementary report, which replaces 2 and 3. So 1, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 on the main agenda and 2 and 3 in the supplementary and informative 1. Please indicate. That appears to be unanimous. Yep. Thank you very much. That has been carried unanimously. So if we could move to the next agenda item, and obviously Councillor Garnett, if you'd like to just stay muted for this one, which is number 4, The Hill, Nicholas. Anybody that came for that obviously may leave if they want to.
Hello, can you hear me well?
You could do with speaking up a bit, Nicholas.
Okay, this application seeks planning permission for the demolition of the existing semi-detached house at number 4, The Hill, and the development of a pair of new semi-detached affordable homes, including a 2-bedroom and 3 bedrooms. Next slide, please. The application site is located within the residential area in Old Harlow. It is a corner port at the junction of The Hill and Millfield. The Hill is the road running north-south on this map, and the road running east to west is Millfield. At the moment, there is a semi-detached house on site. Next slide, please. This site is located just outside the Harlow Garden Village Estate Conservation Area, as can be seen on this map. The conservation area boundary runs along the length of the hill, but excluding the application site and Millfield. Next slide. The site comprises of a 2-story semi-detached dwelling with the frontage on the hill. The front boundary along the hill is dominated by hedging. The Millfield boundary comprises a closed timber fence, as you can see on the next slide, which is a photograph taken at the corner of the site, with the hill to your right-hand side and Millfield to the left. Next slide, please. This is the frontage of the existing building. And next photograph. And this is the existing rear garden of the property. As you can see, it's a semi-detached house. And this is a view from Millfield. And to the left of this photograph, you can see the existing neighbor number 2. The application received no local objection, and the supply of affordable housing is considered to be in favor of the application. This is the proposed layout of the site. Firstly, each property will be provided with 2 off-street parking spaces, which complies with the parking standard requirements. Secondly, the proposed rear garden is approximately 7 meters deep. Although it is smaller than most neighboring properties, it is still sufficient to provide an acceptable living standard to the future residents. It is recommended that permitted development rights for the household extension will be removed to prevent any overdevelopment of the site. In terms of neighbor amenity, to the south of the site is number 2, the hill, which is the original semi-detached neighbor. There are concerns that the first floor window would be overlooking this neighbor, but the view of these windows would be predominantly across the garden rather than into the dwelling itself. And the views from the ground floor would be screened by the 1.8 meter fence proposed, which can be controlled by a condition. Next slide, please. And this is the first floor layout. As you can see, the windows to the rear will be for the bedrooms. And the roof plan shows us a simple pitch roof design. Next slide. The proposed development would have the frontage on Millfield, which is outside the conservation area. The proposed building will be finished in a 2-tone external wall comprising brickworks on the ground floor and paint render on the first floor, which are materials that can be found on other properties within the area. A section of the existing boundary hedge would be retained to preserve the visual amenity of the streetscape and the way in which the adjacent conservation area is appreciated. The proposal demonstrates high quality design and would be acceptable in terms of appearance and would not harm the character and appearance of the surrounding area. The application is therefore recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, where's it gone? My Zoom's vanished. Bizarre. Hello?
Councillor Waite, we can still see you.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. Right, so I believe we've got one speaker on this, which is Mark Cotton. Mark,
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time this evening. My name is Mark Cotton. I'm the agent for this application. I'm Director of Architecture and Design Services based at Palmden Mill in Harlow. I don't have much to add to Nicholas's report, but I just think it's worth drawing your attention to the fact that this is a council-sponsored application. It's an existing council property, which has suffered significant damage as a result of subsidence and is generally in a pretty derelict manner, pretty derelict state. Structural engineers' report on the property has found that it's economically unviable to repair and bring it back into the housing stock, hence a proposal to replace the existing dwelling with 2 new dwellings, adding 1 additional dwelling, if you like, to the council's housing stock. The council's had really positive discussions with the next door neighbour, the adjoined neighbour, who's very keen to see what is somewhat of an eyesore removed from the end of their property. And we're already in advanced discussions with them about timetables for party wall acts and other sort of neighbourly discussions, if that makes sense. So without sort of really going into much detail, I'd just like to commend this application to you. I think it represents a really good use of a pretty ropey site, a pretty ropey council dwelling, and adds additional affordable housing to the council's portfolio. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Members, I found you all again. The joys of IT. If anybody's got any questions, it's quite a straightforward one. No questions? No? Any comments? Anybody want to comment on it? Good. Excellent, Jean. I agree. In that case, I think we will move. Sorry, you already voted, Councillor Livings, or did you want to speak?
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute thing to start with. Just to say, I'm very pleased that this is will go forward, and another house on our housing stock, which is great.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, if we could move to the vote. So pages 74 to 76, recommendations 1 to 9, informatives 1 and 2, if you could indicate, that would be great. Okay, that is unanimous for those of you that are in this room.
What's happened?
Thank you very much. That is unanimously carried. Moving on to Newhall Moors, Sangeeta.
Thank you, Chair. This is a household application for an extension to an existing dwelling. The extension would be 2 stories at the rear, and there would be a single-story element at the rear and a single-story element on the side. The location of the site is within the Mark Hall North Conservation Area. The most notable features of this conservation area, as you can see from this layout and the next slide, is the layout of the dwellings within their sites in relation to the street, and the separation distances between the semi-detached dwellings. Thank you, Alex. Other than the character of the conservation area, the main concerns in the assessment of this proposal have been the impact on residential amenities, mainly number 67 to the north of the site and number 65, which is located to the south of the site. This is the existing ground floor plan. You can see there is an existing front wall. This wall connects the plank wall of this dwelling at site to the adjoining dwelling at number 65. A few of that dwelling's amenities, such as the bin store and a shed, are attached to the plank wall of the application site. This one is the proposed ground floor plan. The depth of the extension to the rear would be 3.3 meters. So it is 0.3 meters over the PD limit. Yes. On this boundary would be the single story element within the rear extension. And on the other side would be the single story which extends from the shed right up to the depth of the rear extension, which you can see on the right hand side. Thank you, Alex. If we can go to the next slide, this is the existing first floor, which is typically standing on the main ground floor area. This is the proposed first floor. On the north boundary, you can see the roof of the ground floor element, and the blue line indicates the 45-degree line from the neighbor's habitable window at the first floor level. This is in compliance with policy and the SPD guidance. So the proposed 2-story element is clearly outside the 45-degree line, which is drawn from the center of the neighboring first floor window. This is the proposed elevation. Please ignore the wavy lines on the sides. That's not what it is going to be. It will just carry on with the facades as they exist on the neighboring properties. You can see that the existing front wall is going to be retained, and the proposed single-story side extension would rise over this wall by 0.25 meters, which is some 200 mm, so 20 centimeters. But it would also be 3.5 meters back. It would be set away from the front face of the building, so it would not be within obvious vision when it is viewed from the street. This is the rear elevation. You can see the main two-story element rising above, but it is clearly below the ridge of the main house. On the right-hand side within the elevation, you can see the mono-pitched roof over the single-story element. That is where the adjoining shared boundary with number 67 will be. So the mono-pitched roof actually reduces the impact on that neighbor. Thank you, Alex. This is the side elevation looking from number 65. So on the ground floor towards the left, what you can see is the shed, the shed and the bin store, which actually belongs to the neighbor. There's no works proposed on that part. The existing front wall is going to be retained. The proposed extension would start from where you see, yes, from there to the rear of the house. There is going to be one new window which will be introduced at the first floor level. And the application has stated that the glazing to this window would be obscure glazed. We have recommended a condition so that it would be non-opening from the pertaining floor to a height of 1.7 meters. That way the neighbor's privacy can be protected. This elevation shows you the single-story element which is going to be shared with the neighbor on the north, which is going to have a mono-pitched roof, and towards the rear you see the two-story element rising above. That is the front view of the house. You can see that the dwelling does not have an entrance porch, and the existing front wall can be seen towards the right-hand corner. Again, the street view, this is a semi-detached two-story dwelling typical within this area. The dwelling which you can see further within the picture is number 65, which is, sorry, yes, it is number 65, sorry. It stands to the south of the site. It does have an entrance porch, as you can see in the picture. The way the relationship between these two houses is that that house projects nearly half its depth towards the front from the face of the application site. So, and because of its location to the side, south of the site, that particular neighbor would not be affected in terms of daylight. This is the rear view of the house, where you can see the patio doors. That is where the single-story element would go. On the right side, where you can see the first floor and ground floor windows, that's where the two-story element would go. This picture is showing you the relationship with the adjoining neighbor again at number 65. They also have a window at the first floor level in the flank elevation. As I said previously, the proposed window in this in the site would be obscure glazed and non-opening. Other than that, there are no windows that could be impacted from that window. In terms of the two-story elevation extension as well, that this particular neighbor would not be affected adversely in any way. This is just showing you the location plan one more time. The previous reasons for refusal have been addressed within this application in that the front porch has been removed completely. The proposed two-story element will not be seen from the street scene, and Therefore, on that ground, we are recommending an approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Okay. We have a written statement that's been submitted by Alan Clark and Joe Stuckey, I understand. Anna.
Thank you, Chair. Please find below a couple of points in relation to planning application HW/HSE/20/000172 on your meeting agenda and as specific objections. In relation to reference HW/HSE/20/00005 on page 82 of the meeting agenda, the porch was never our objection and we were okay with this. Please note, we at 65 do not have a porch as stated in the information provided on page 81. However, our initial objections previously submitted still apply. Please find these below. As an immediate neighbour to this site, we believe the proposed two-storey rear extension will have a negative impact on our standard of living. Our specific objections are as follows: visual amenity and out of character with neighbouring properties, overbearing and overshadowing on property and garden, loss of privacy. Privacy into the garden will be affected by a two-storey extension. As a note, we have no objections to a single storey based on the new ground floor plans. We would be grateful if you would take our objections into consideration when deciding this application. We would welcome the opportunity to meet with you at our home to illustrate our objections at first hand. Yours sincerely, Alan Clark and Joe Stuckey. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And we now have Mr. Wilson, Richard Wilson. You'll have 3 minutes, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. Basically, I think Sangeeta's covered most of what we've tried to convey in the proposals. First submitted the application back in October 2018, which was refused due to the conservation area and the side extension being visible from the front. We amended and resubmitted that following discussions with John Harrison, but an objection was received and the application again was subsequently refused. We then met with Jade Clifton Brown on the 31st of October in 2019, at which point we discussed the proposals and we thought we reached a mutually acceptable compromise to reduce the depth of the first floor, the height of the ground floor element, and also bring everything within the 45-60 degree lines from the neighbouring properties' windows. And of course, we've removed the porch proposals from the application entirely following the last refusal that we received on the last application. I feel that this is a reasonable scheme within the vicinity and nothing really more to add other than that, really.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Members, any questions on this one? Councillor Souter.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quickie, has there been any other proposals or developments of this size in the conservation area of Markham Moors?
Sangeeta?
Shall I answer that? Yes, there has only been one household application which has unfortunately been refused. That was refused on the grounds that the ECC advised that the impact it would have on the conservation area would be adverse.
And they haven't recommended that on this one?
No, that has been recommended for refusal. It has been refused, in fact.
Yeah, but they, ECC haven't recommended similarly with this one?
No, for this one, they have recommended an approval.
Thank
clearly.
you. Any other questions? No debate. Councillor Garnett?
Coming. Hello. Yes, yeah. It is a large extension. I have to say in the area, but it is subservient, as Sangeeta said. So I suppose that's would be a main objection if it wasn't. The only other point I had was perhaps I can propose, I'm happy with it otherwise, is the working hours. It's in the middle of a residential area. I think we need to make sure we have some control over the working. So I'd like to propose that and hopefully somebody can second it.
Is that seconded?
Well, I'll second it, but
Okay.
I'd like to speak against.
You can speak against it, Councillor Clark. I won't stop you.
Right, thank you. Well, it still is it is an extensive increase. And I agree with the objectors that if it was one single story, it might be a different matter, but it's a 2-story apart from the other single story extensions. It is overbearing. It is out of keeping with the local character of the area. It's a conservation area and a very significant area in itself, as I believe it was the first area to be developed in Harlow, and I think that overall it's too large for the setting and the character of the area. Thank you.
Anybody else? No. In that case, I think we will move to the vote. So we are asking for all those in favour for item 11, which I haven't got the page number. I apologise for that, but it's recommendations 1 to 4 and informatives 1 and 2. All those in favour, please. Please indicate.
Sorry, Chair, you haven't working hours.
Oh, sorry, yes. Sorry, before we go on to the substantive vote, all those in favour of adding a recommendation with the standard working hours that we normally impose, please indicate. Okay, that is unanimously carried around the working hours. So if we then move to the substantive vote, which is recommendations 1 to 4 plus the 2 informatives and the working hours recommendation, please indicate. Okay, I have 4 votes for. All those voting against, please. And 3 against. That is therefore carried. Moving on.
Jean said that she was voting against, Chair.
She did, yeah.
And she wasn't recorded in that vote.
She was. So it was yourself, Jean, and Councillor Souter that voted against.
No, it was Sue Livings. Jean's hand was not up.
Jean's hand was up, voting against.
Okay.
Yeah, I did vote against.
You did, very much so.
I am counted, I hope, yes.
You are, absolutely.
Right.
I've not missed you.
Okay.
Moving on, that one is finished. We move to item 12, reference from other committees. There are none, nor are there any matters of urgent business. Therefore, like to thank you for your attendance, and I'll see you all next month or at council or whenever. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.